Today we are going to transform pain into empowerment by moving through loss with love. So I've gotten some questions in the last week about conversations around grief and loss. And most of these conversations around grief and loss are focused around the death of a loved one. However, we can experience grief over many varying situations and circumstances. I draw heavily upon the work of Francis Weller, who's a Jungian psychotherapist and grief expert, and his book, The Wild Edges of Sorrow, offers to us 5 gates of grief. And his 5 gates of grief actually opened up a lot for me because I didn't realise that I held so much grief inside of me. So the first gate of grief, everything we love, we will lose. The loss of loved ones, the loss of pets, the loss of relationships and friendships. They're called breakups and divorces, the loss of jobs. Perhaps it's a loss of our own capacities through illness or the decline of old age. And it's important to name these losses because we can't grieve our losses until we're able to name them. The second gate of grief, the losses of my inner child. And we'll cover this next week. The parts of me that weren't welcomed into this world. The third gate of grief, the sorrows of the world. It's grief over ecosystems decline and grief for salmon and stream and mountains and forest and deforestation. And we touched upon some of that in the first week together. The fourth gate of grief, what we expected we did not receive. I believe that in our deep architectural knowing, in our bodies and bones, we expected to be welcomed into a world where we were integrated, welcomed into a culture that knew how to take care of the land and take care of the animals and take care of each other. And instead we're born into something else altogether. And then that leads us into the fifth gate of grief, which is ancestral grief. And we'll actually cover this in our last week together. It's grief for the loss of ancestors, and it's also the grief that our ancestors weren't able to move through our bodies. I'm just going to invite in a pause for some breath. Because for some of us, our world may have expanded just then. And it's important that we're able to integrate this information. And this information may help to provide or shed new awareness on our own landscape. And as a trauma therapist, I really believe we can't do trauma without doing grief. And I have many clients who come in to see me for trauma therapy. And really what we're doing is we're actually doing the work of grief. And for me, for many years, my grief was veiled as anger and resentment and a hardened shell of confusion, which was then overly protected by my stoic self-reliance and a veneer of competent charm in the world. And so this week, as we focus on moving through grief that takes us through this terrain of confusion, hurt, resentment, anger, regrets, we're then perhaps able to turn towards the terrain of our losses. Whether it be loved ones, or a situation of loss or a situation of transition. It could be very ambiguous, our losses. It could be death by suicide, death by an accident, an unfaithful partner, a sudden job loss, the death of a patient. The ambiguous losses of someone whom you once knew and yet they're still alive. For example, the ambiguous loss of someone to addiction or to Alzheimer's or to a stroke or the loss of physical capacities in oneself or in another. Right? These are all losses. And so with today's practice, in particular, we'll be moving some of this energy through the body. Or rather, we'll be moving some of the blockages to this flow of energy, emotion, energy in motion. And a reminder once again, am I unsafe or am I uncomfortable? If it's physical pain, back away. If it's emotional pain, See if you can pause and breathe and perhaps allow the energy, the emotions, to emerge and to be held in our communal field of reverence and communal compassion. And it's all invitational. And this week, once again, I hope to move us between resource and activation, and resource and activation. This week in particular, this practice comes out of my grief yoga teacher training that I did with a fabulous Paul Denniston. Here he is on the back cover. Yeah. And I have so much gratitude for Paul's work in the world, grief-yoga.com, where he brings the practices of yoga to help move this energy through the body. Please take care of yourself. Everything that I offer is an invitation. So I invite some breaths and some rocking and swaying. And perhaps orient to the horizons. And perhaps to the heavens above. And to then check in. How is your heart today? How is my heart today, in this moment? And perhaps some permission giving or permission receiving, that it's okay to have a space where I check in. If you like, I invite you to bring in an image of your loved one, smiling at you with love, an image of them happy to see you, happy to be here, happy to be with you. Or perhaps you'd like to invite in other images of what your heart is heavy over the loss of or the transitioning of. Whether it be the earth or a relationship. Or the ambiguous losses of that which you did not get to experience. Or perhaps something that your heart is deeply in love with and fearful of losing. And if you like, you can bring your hands up to your mouth and to cup your hands and release into your hands like you're whispering a love letter to name that which your heart is heavy over. Whether it's the name of a person or a place or a transition, that which has been taken that should not have been taken, that which was given that should not have been given. And I invite you now to take this love letter, to place it on your chest, to push. To acknowledge the love and the loss. And if you like, you may begin to roll the shoulders. And perhaps with the next shoulder roll open, there's a gentle lifting of the sternum and a lengthening of the spine. And then perhaps a rolling inwards. a rounding of the spine. And to lift and lengthen, to roll and round. If you like, with the next lift and lengthen, you can interlace hands behind your back. Roll the shoulders open, lengthen and lift. To then release. Round. Let's move. If it's okay, sun breaths. Arms sweep out and up. Palms touch. And bring the palms down through the center line. Sun breath, reach out and up. Palms touch. Press through the center line. One more sun breath. Reach out and up. Palms touch, move through the center line, and let's reverse into moon breaths. Reverse, reaching up, and then out and down. This time, sun breath, reach out and up. Side stretch, this time right hand to your right hip. Left arm reaches up, lengthen. And towards your right, C curve. Both arms back to center, flowing. Left arm down. Right arm reaches up. C curve to the left. Sweep back to center and flow to the right. Flow to the left. Like a tree in the breeze. Perhaps the arms might like to come down and to twist. And then finding stillness in the twist, perhaps rolling the shoulders. And then if you like, connecting to that flow, squeezing up and in. And then pressing against imaginary side walls that are pressing in against you. Yeah. Connecting to empowerment. Release down, squeeze up and in. Pressing against an imaginary ceiling that's pushing down against you. Perhaps making sounds. And then one more, squeezing up and in. Pressing against an imaginary force that's pushing from in front of you. Release. Invitation now to incorporate sound with movement and breath. Clasp your hands. Excuse me. Shake your hands. And release through the jaw. If it feels okay with you, make your hands into balls. 3 breaths in through the nose. I'm going to press the hands into the belly with the exhale. Push with the sound, ha. So breathe in. Exhale, ha. Breathe in. Ha. Ha. If you like, forearms parallel. 1 breath in as you exhale, elbows squeeze in, make the sound, ha. Moving with empowerment through love and loss. Breathe in. Exhale, ha. Breathe in. Exhale, ha. Again. Ha. 1 more. Ha. Hands clasped. Oh. Oh. By saying the sound why, we can help move suppressed feelings that come from within to actually move up and out. So if you like, you can say why. And if you like, you can make this shape with your forearms. Why? 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 If you like, you can stand Take a step forward, forearms. Why? 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 Opposite hand to opposite arm. Give yourself a massage. Or if you like, you can grab your stuffy and give your stuffy a hug. Yeah. If you like, I invite you to tap the chest and acknowledge the vulnerable parts of yourself that may be in pain. And I invite you to finish the sentence. I am. I am confused. I am scared. I am hurt. I am lonely, and I'm scared of being alone. I am angry. I am a mess. Hug once again, or hold on to that stuffy. I invite you now to witness yourself with tenderness. To witness the vulnerable, in pain, confused, sad, hurt parts of yourself with tenderness. And as you offer yourself this embrace, allow your body to receive. And you can rock and sway. I invite you to notice the one whom you are holding with unbearable compassion. And if you like, you can move one hand to your chest and perhaps the other hand to hold your face. To hold oneself with unbearable compassion. May I be well. May I be happy. May I be at peace. And if you like, the hand that's wrapped around you or the hand that's on your face, you can reach it forward like a gesture of receptivity, open to asking and open to receiving help. Help me. And you can make a motion, the hand over your shoulder, of release. Palm forward, help me. Hand over the shoulder to release my resentments. Help me to let go of my regrets. Whatever it is that you wish for some help with, you can ask and you can let go a little bit today. Help me to release. Help me to accept. Help me if you like, you can place both palms to touch in front. May you be well. To bring those palms towards you. May I be well. And to reach arms forward, hands forward. May you be happy. Towards me. May I be happy. Reach out. May you be at peace. Together towards. May I be at peace. And let's just pause here in silence together. May we be well. May we be happy. May we be at peace. Your grief process is yours and yours alone. And I'm so honoured to be here with you. Your grief matters. And I'm just going to rock myself with you. And Rainbow Moose is going to be here with you too. And I'm just going to pause and invite in some spaciousness.
If anyone has questions, drop them in the Q&A. And some of the comments are, I'm grieving not being a biological mom. I'm grieving my inner child. I have the grief of my child.
The why practice can be so powerful. I know I did it with a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And yet I know for myself, when I first was exposed to why, all I could muster was why. And yet to allow the confusion inside of me to take up some space in this world and to not need an answer. Yeah, to not need an answer, because the cognitive part of me wants to find the answer. It wants to protect me from this ever happening again. And yet in life there are no certainties. And the traumatized part of me wants to control and make everything predictable and certain, and to be able to let that energy move through, and for me to witness and hold myself through all the feels that come up, because grief is so much more than sadness.
Yeah. I have a couple of questions, if we still have a few minutes. How can I release fear of rejection and trauma from being badly tarted at work? She means badly treated at work, so I can move forward in life.
Yes. So this is where it's a combination of working with someone who can help you to take the trauma edge off of that experience that your body remembers. Yeah, your body remembers it as body echoes, and your body in service of survival, then whenever there is a whiff of the sniff of any sort of reminder of that experience, will then in service of survival tell you, let's not do that. Yeah, that was painful, let's not do that again. Let's not expose ourselves. And our world gets smaller, and this is where we can hold the recognition of that with compassion. And we can reach out to practitioners of EMDR, brain spotting, havening touch, flash technique, holographic memory work, where we can then begin to take the edge off enough, or perhaps altogether, depending on whether that technique is most appropriate for you. And then we can begin to move towards our life in bite-sized ways. And in the trauma world, this is called titration. We move towards in bite-sized ways with the support that is appropriate and available for us. And so this is where we then get to stretch the nervous system in ways that are integratable. It's about the dignity of risk. Trauma recovery is entering into the dignity of risk and of risking. As Rumi says, fear is the cheapest inn, or fear is the cheapest room in the inn, and you deserve much better lodgings. And so it's a both and.
Thank you. Renee is asking, she says, thank you. And how do I let go of painful images and memories?
Once again, that's where I default to my training as a trauma therapist. Yeah. Where there are techniques that allow us to let go of those painful images while fully knowing and appreciating that my nervous system, my brain, has embedded within it a negativity bias. I need to remember what the whiff of a sniff of a bear smells like, sounds like, what the habitat is like, because that is a survival imperative. And so that's where those images, our brain wants to hold on to them so that they don't ever happen again, and yet it can get in the way of our ability to function in the world. Yeah. I have a rule for myself as a trauma therapist. 48 hours to 72 hours after hearing a story that I can't get the images out of my head, or I start putting myself in the scene, I then go and see my own trauma therapist to do my own work so that I can then clear that out of my memory, my memory banks. It's also very common as well when there's a traumatic loss that we then imagine how our loved one died. We imagine the scene of that. It's like we want to follow them. We want to maintain that connection with them, so we imagine it in vivid detail as much as possible. Yeah. And this is natural, and there are trauma therapy techniques that we can use to take the edge off of that so that we can remember our loss with more love than pain.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and for some of us, there is a part of us that feels like we're betraying the loved one or the loved place if we let go of the pain that's attached to it. Yeah. And so to acknowledge that part that does that, that wants to do that. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Join us next week for session 5, which is songs for your inner child. Same time next week. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Linda, again, for such a beautiful, powerful session. Thank you so much.
See you all next week.